So this is my Subaru Forester 2012. It's recently had a very nasty sound coming from the engine, which I'll just demonstrate to you now. It seemed to be coming from the pulley system, which is around the drive bout. And I sprayed some WD-40 on all of the pulleys, and the pulley that quietened down with the WD-40 was the tensioner pulley. Now, I couldn't find any YouTube videos on how I could remove the tensioner assembly, so this is what I've done. This is a video showing how easy it is to remove the tensioner pulley, although nowhere near as easy to actually find the correct replacement pulley. This is the tensioner pulley, and we need to remove the tensioner in order to remove and replace the pulley. We need to remove the engine cover and then the air intake, and then we can see that the tensioner pulley is held on by two bolts. To remove the air intake, we have to remove two plastic clips which may break, so have some replacements ready, and then we just lift the air intake away from the air filter box. Now we need to slacken the V-belt off by moving the tensioner anti-clockwise with a large lever and wheel nut socket. You need to put a lot of force on the socket to move the tensioner pulley to the anti-clockwise direction, and that's why you need a long bar to do it. With the tensioner assembly moved anti-clockwise, we can now easily remove the V-bout, and that shows access to the pulley and much easier access to remove the two bolts holding the tensioner assembly in. You will need a 12 and a 14mm socket for the two bolts holding the tensioner assembly in, and it's actually a 19mm socket that you need to actually remove the tension with the captive nut on the tensioner assembly. Sorry this video is in the wrong aspect ratio, but I can't go back and retake it now. But the two bolts are obvious, and they should come away quite easily. So now you can see the whole tensioner assembly removed and the holes where the two bolts were, and now we can remove the tensioner to the garage and take the pulley wheel off of the tensioner assembly. So this is the pulley that needs to be changed, but I never could get a replacement for it. You need a T50 torque bit to remove the pulley from the tensioner assembly, and it's best to hold the tensioner assembly in a vise when you do that. So I'm lucky enough to have a vise, so I've put the tensioner in the vise in order to be able to get the old pulley off, and we'll just see how much force I've got to put on. Let's have a look. So here we go. Let's just see how easy it comes off, although I've had it off already once, with the pulley that is. So that's the old pulley off, and we're now going to see if we can fit the new pulley onto it. Fingers crossed. And there you can see the new pulley just in place. Now, actually I never did fit that pulley because it was far too small, and it was obvious it would cause a problem with the bout drive. So I had to put the old pulley back on, and so 2 weeks later yet another pulley turns up which is supposed to fit my Forester, and I had high hopes, and so therefore I took off the tensioner assembly again, and well, this is what happened. Just wanted to show you the old pulley before I finally take it off. Because it took me so long to get the replacement, I packed it absolutely full of grease. You can see how well packed the bearings are with the grease I put in, and you can see this dust seal here. You can take them off both sides of this bearing. there was no noise at all after I put the grease in, and quite honestly I think I could probably have done another 100,000 miles on this bearing, but I wasn't going to chance it. But certainly if you can't get hold of the spare part quickly, then packing it with grease might well save the day for thousands of miles. I'm pretty impressed on how well this bearing looks now since I repacked it with grease, and that was a simple job to do. So here's the old tensioner assembly and the faulty pulley off the car again. So we're just going to take that pulley off, and we'll see whether it's exactly the same as the new one, which I think it is. So that's the new pulley onto the tensioner assembly. It looks exactly the same size as the old pulley, but I don't think that I'm going to be able to get the dust cap on. That's the dust cap that was on the original pulley, but we'll see. So I'm just going to tighten up the T50 torque bolt now, and then we'll see. Okay, this new pulley won't fit either. The reason it won't fit is that the fins here project out too close to where the bolt goes through, and if you look at the original one, they're much more recessed. So although it would probably fit perfectly in terms of the bolt hole and the size of the pulley, and the pulley wouldn't rotate on the shaft, so that's no good either. So that's about £60 that I've spent on two pulleys that didn't fit, and I don't want to spend £500 with Subaru to replace the whole tensioner assembly. So I'm really back to square one, but I hope that this video has shown you how to do it if you can get hold of the right tensioner pulley. So this is everything back together. This is the original pulley back on, you can just about see it, and the two bolts securing the pulley assembly, the tensioner assembly are back in place, tightened up judiciously. So I'm just going to run the engine now and see how it sounds with the original pulley on. So there's no doubt there's no noise coming from the original tensioner pulley that I put back on. It's a diesel engine, so it sounds pretty noisy anyway. So unfortunately I can't get a replacement tensioner pulley, so we'll just have to see how long this one lasts with all the new grease in it before it starts squealing. Just one last thing to remind you to retension both of those bolts that you've put back in on the tensioner assembly after you've done 20-30 miles, because they may well give a little bit, and don't over tighten them, but make sure they're tight after about 30 miles. And happy motoring.